It's a real privilege today to welcome our speaker, Funmi Akindojoye. Funmi lives and works in Nigeria and doubles as an environmental public health researcher and a visual artist. Currently, a doctoral candidate at the Wicking Dementia Research and Education Centre at the University of Tasmania, she is a Senior Atlantic Fellow for Equity in Brain Health at Trinity College Dublin. Her work focuses on environmental risk factors for brain health and the use of nature to improve quality of life. In 2022, she was nominated for the Global Metrodora Awards as a female mental health leader in medicine and science. Funmi's recent body of work focuses on case studies on the influence of urban design on mental health. She has successfully conducted case studies in Lagos, Nigeria, and Lapua in Finland, where she combines workshops and art exhibitions to showcase the results of these studies. Presently, she is investing the impact of green space among people with MCI, dementia, and their caregivers. I'm going to pass you over now to Funmi, who will share her screen and her presentation entitled Social and Therapeutic Horticulture among Aged Care Residents in Lagos, Nigeria. Funmi.
Thank you, Jenny, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. From wherever you're calling in from, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. All right, so I'll quickly share my slides so that we can begin. Okay, almost there. All right. So I believe you can see my screen.
Yes.
You must like. Okay, thank you. All right, so as Jenny rightly said, I'll running you through my work on social therapeutic horticulture among aged care residents in Lagos, Nigeria. This project is a body of work which I refer to as the Bloom Social Therapeutic Horticulture Project, where we fuse both gardening and art to improve the quality of lives of persons with dementia, with and without dementia, and their caregivers. All right, so we'll be guided by this outline today. I'll be giving a basic introduction and background of healing garden, then also we'll talk about the garden development process, which are divided into 4 segments, and also the impact or the results of the intervention. Also, briefly describe the garden launch and the caregivers training using mostly media. And finally, we'll discuss recommendations from what I learned so far, and myself and my team, from implementation. All right, so by way of introduction, I'd like to talk about healing gardens, and which is also sometimes referred to as therapeutic gardening. They are basically plant-dominated environments that are, purposefully designed to foster the interaction between humans and the healing elements of nature. And as you can see here, they are usually mostly found in hospitals and care institutions. One thing about healing garden, or the concept I just spoke about the healing elements of nature, is there are several empirical data that has proven the benefits of healing garden on humans, especially elderly people, persons with dementia, and the general population at large. And this is backed by some principles or theories, the Kaplan attention restoration, which basically talks about the exposure to nature can result in improving our concentration and attention. And also there is the biophilia hypothesis that states that man has great affinity for nature naturally. And also the Ulrich theory, which states that we tend to recover from stress when we are in green spaces, green environments, or not always green, but blue spaces as well. So natural environment generally, as compared to being an urban space or a built space. And I listed out some of the benefits of being in nature, exposure to nature for elderly persons and persons with dementia, because basically that's what the focus of the intervention is about. So we have here, it improves cognitive stimulation, improves social connection, increases pleasant feeling, encourages personal control, and the list goes on. Moving forward, I'll talk basically about what the Bloom Socio-Therapeutic Horticulture project was about and also the broad objectives. So what we did with this project was, it's basically a co-designed process where the garden was being developed with the caregivers. I always love to include caregivers in my intervention or whenever I study persons with dementia or elderly persons generally, maybe in care homes or not in care homes, because caregivers are important and most times they are neglected. Maybe neglected is not the word, maybe overlooked, and you realize that they go through a lot of stress themselves. So the study actually focuses on co-design of healing gardens in selected care homes for improving the quality of lives of persons with dementia, with or without dementia, and their caregivers, with emphasis. And also that was like the first objective. Then the second was to train and educate care staff on the health benefits and application of the use of healing gardens. And I think why this is unique and peculiar is because there is a gap of, a gap of literature or evidence when it comes to the use of therapeutic gardens or healing gardens in the global south and in a country such as Nigeria. Mostly because, because of the socioeconomic differences in both when you compare the global south and the global north. So most people are not really interested in gardening as a way of therapy. So that is why I believe that this study or this intervention is really very important to start, giving data and evidence about the importance of having such gardens or such projects in a country such as Nigeria, or in a place such as Lagos. So what we did also is we had done some measurement or evaluation of our intervention. So we measured the psychosocial indices. We did some psychosocial indices measurement, as well as measuring the quality of lives of residents. I'll briefly talk about the location of the study or the intervention. So it was carried out in Lagos, Nigeria, as I mentioned earlier. In Lagos, Lagos is a very populated state in Nigeria, and it's about 21 million persons in Lagos. To give you a very good image or picture of what Lagos is to Nigeria, if you take a look at the image you have, it's that really tiny place you have there on the map of Nigeria. So Lagos is like, it has 10% of the population of Nigeria, but it's found in a landmass of less than 1% of Nigeria's total landmass. So you can imagine how populated and it is. And that, please put that at the back of your mind, because I would come back to that in terms of space. So as I mentioned, it was carried out in 2 care homes, the Max Care Home and Elderly Care Home, Maryland. Those are 2 different locations in Lagos, consisting of, we had 33 older persons actively participating in each of the, together, combined in both care homes with 22 caregivers. Everything is combined here for the data you see on your screen. Then also with 20 with the diagnosis of dementia. So I divided the garden development process to 4 stages. So we talked about the pre-garden development, the garden development itself, then garden activities, more like referring to meaningful activities within the garden, then also the post-garden development stage. So for the pre-garden development, we had two different activities or actions we carried out here. So I'll first of all talk about the initial site assessment. Then we also had a needs assessment. And what we try to do here is encourage co-creation, co-design, because myself and my team, I think our aim was to actually have them own the garden, not just our intention was not just to plant a garden for them and leave and say, oh, it's yours, but they were supposed to be involved in the design of the garden as well. So what we did with the initial site assessment was we had an on-site assessment of the space that was available. Remember, I said Lagos was, densely populated. So that gives you an idea of what a privately owned care facility would look like. So we faced the challenge of limited space, floor space, but with the site assessment, we're able to work around that. So what we did was identify potential sites for the garden within the floor space in the facility, then also collected historical data from what was applicable in that area as well. Then also we talked about the design and installation. So finally, we picked a site. We did this together we did the site assessment together with management of the facility, as well as a professional landscaper. And eventually we were able to pick a site. And one of the two things that we considered while picking the site was accessibility and visibility. Okay, so while I give this presentation, I'll be referring to one of the facility as facility 1 and the other as facility 2. So for facility, we both faced, for both facilities, there were limited available outdoor floor area. And so what we did, the solution or how we're able to mitigate that challenge was basically relocation of some of the features and amenities of the home to another area within the facility. So for facility 1, we are able to relocate the laundry line. As you can see from the image on your screen, facility 1, they had a laundry line on that space that was identified. Then also for the second facility, they had several things going on for them there, like waste drum, the gas cylinder, because they had a kitchen nearby and the power generator. So having talked about, we agreed on the relocation of those stuff, then we also had to do some sort of pest control. So there was fumigation and structural measures to control for pests and rodents, closed every open area that could attract rodents, as well as cover up the drainage properly. Then also we determined how we would create a natural lawn, because as you can see, it's a concrete floor for both facilities. So how do we create a natural lawn? That was the next stage that we had faced, but I'll talk about that while I talk about the installation, the next phase of the project. So the next thing we did during the pre-garden development was a needs assessment. So we did this using an online form, which was distributed to the care staff of both facilities. And we did this to determine their knowledge, prior knowledge and experience with healing gardens generally, and also to determine what they would prefer to see in their garden space and the concept that they had in mind and all that. So, and also besides using an online survey, we had in-depth interviews with 2 senior management staff for both homes. Excuse me. These interviews were recorded and of course transcribed. So the table below kind of gives an idea of what their knowledge and prior experience of using gardening was like. As you can see, it's kind of poor. On an average, 70% of them had never worked with a garden and taking care of seniors, and also they had no prior knowledge of what social therapeutic horticulture was about. Moving on, these were some of the features that they had suggested in their garden: planting of herbs, edible vegetables, shaded and cool areas, outdoor seats, and the list goes on. And also for perceived impacts on residents and care staff themselves, of course, they were able to bring out a few very important impacts that they felt would be impactful to them or beneficial to them, from beautification to allowing caregivers feel more comfortable and lively, and to increase the confidence of family and friends of the caregiving service, and also to promoting socialization, improving physical health, and providing a feeling of relevance. And yes, we have all this listed here. I'll just move on. Yes, and during the site assessment, we found that they had a kind of like a makeshift vertical garden already going on, a vegetable garden. So when we asked about this, I think we were told that they had a client who used to be a farmer in his younger age and, still wanted to plant and, do stuff. And so they had to, come up with this structure here. So they used like abandoned woods, pet bottles to create this garden for him. But later on, they later said I think some of the seniors complained that it was attracting rodents and pests, so they kind of discontinued the whole scheme. But thankfully, we came around, and yeah, I'll move on. So for the garden development itself, I'll talk about the lawn development, which I find really very, very interesting because of what we had to do. Then also the garden features and installation. So two things. One of the things that was really important to us was the use of local fabricators. So we had locally fabricated most of the things that we use for the garden. And we found that very important and helpful because with that, we're able to customize most of the features of the garden. For example, the rattan outdoor shed with roof we have here so we had altered a few features that you would normally have for a conventional seat like this. So rather than swing like a pendulum, we decided that it should be stable because of the safety of the seniors. We don't want them falling off the seats. So it was stable. So that was one of the advantages of, fabricating our own stuff. Then also, I think we increased the seats capacity from 3 to 4. Of course, we're trying to utilize the space or maximize the space that we have. So we needed to have more seats. Yeah, so we did that. Then also, we had like vertical metal frames with customized dimension that fit properly into the space that was available to us. And of course, preservation of these metal frames, it was galvanized to, reduce the effect of the environmental effects of that would have maybe caused rust and what have you. And also for the natural lawn, so what we did was for the first home, the concrete floor was such that we couldn't break through, actually break it and have to see this through the soil, because from collecting the historical data, we realized that part of the space that we're going to use had a septic tank underneath. And of course, it would not be possible to do that. So what we did was we kind of raised the floor of the space that was meant for the lawn, then created a soil bed on it. That was what we did for that one. But for the second one, the one I have on the screen here, we excavated the bricks that were in that floor area already. And of course, we came in with proper soil, treated it, and allowed that to sit. And so I'd listed a few of the features that we kind of installed in the garden space. I'd already talked about the vertical metal frame. We had several of those depending on the size that was available to us, or the space that was available to us for the garden. As you can see from the slide here, One important thing I should mention is the kind of pergola that we used. So during the needs assessment, they had mentioned that they wanted shade and all that. And in this part of the world where you have of course, Nigeria is a tropical country and we had lots of sunlight. So you would want a situation whereby the seniors are well shaded, because you could have sunlight for like most parts of the year, really. So and we also wanted the sunlight to hit on the plants for biological reasons, of course. So what we did was we decided to go with a metal meshed pergola, so that eventually we had creeping plants grow on it. So that way, kind of providing some sort of shade while still allowing sunlight and the natural elements of the garden to still like be relevant and to still manifest itself. So that was what we did there. And another important feature was the use of concrete seats and planters. So we had, if you can see from the top picture here, so we had concrete seats and we had planters in between, so they could actually like really interact with the space and the plants all together. And I think one of the features that were mentioned as a need, or that was a preference for them, was the use of scented leaves and scented plants, and that also we had incorporated. Going by the principles of a sensory garden, yeah, that was important, because I think if you were to appeal to the five senses, smell would be one of them, texture would be another. I think visual senses would be another as well. So yeah, so we're able to accomplish that with the use of scented plants and flowers. So for the gardening activities, this part of the project was really exciting, because this was where we were able to infuse the use of art and painting and planting all together. So just briefly talk about it before I show pictures. So for the art painting session, we had like 6 sessions where the seniors had to, paint their plant verses. We labeled each of them for all the sessions that we had. Okay, this is like Mommy Blessing's pot. This is Daddy Olu's pot. So we labeled each of them. And what we did, we worked with volunteer artists. So for each resident or each senior had a volunteer artist to support them in painting these plant verses. And I think how we did that was we had themes for each day. For example, we would ask them, what's your favorite fruit? What's your favorite object, or a gift you cherish so much, or a country you had visited, or, questions like that. For each session had a theme. And talking about that created lots of conversations amongst them, brought back memories, there was laughter, and, they were all energized and painted. And also the caregivers were not left out. Caregivers painted as well. Caregivers supported their seniors as well. So it was a mix of caregivers supporting seniors, artists supporting seniors, artists supporting caregivers. So we all did this together. So we're able to accomplish that. And also the short-term impact of each session was measured using the Midas tool. Actually, the Midas tool is used for music intervention for persons with dementia, but the project was really exploratory. So we decided to use that to measure the impact of the visual art session for this particular intervention. These are more pictures from the sessions that we had. This is a caregiver. You can see she's all smiles because, yeah, she was able to paint. And initially when this lady started, she was really like she really kept to herself and was isolated. But as we went on, she probably just take the brush off your hands because she wanted to do it herself. That was how impactful it was for them. So after the painting was done, we had sessions of planting. So we had transplants of each of the plant nursery, which they did. So of course with assistance, so they kind of, planted did the transplant, and yeah, we had all that going on. You can see from the pictures. And so we had some testimonials. I just briefly read some part that I had highlighted and I felt that were relevant, or everything is relevant actually, but they really stood out. So it says, everyone did something, including clients. We taught me not to be able to participate. That was one of the management said. So clients that really were kept to themselves, or they looked or felt incapacitated, that like they were not capable of doing all that. Okay. Then also, another said they were happy working with colors. So they were really excited working with colors. And so we have, since the end project is within the facility, it's like a monument, and they can confidently say they created it. And that, of course, is the end goal, co-creation, owning the project because it's meant for them. Then I read this last quote. It says, I think it's highly recommended for the seniors. We discovered they all got really engaged and engaged their brains in deciding what they would paint on their plant verses. So in a way, the art activities also help improve their cognition. And yeah. So moving forward, we had more testimonials. I just move on. These are care staff who also participated in the planting process as well. So for the garden installation, so how we did this was, some part of the garden was segmented to planting of flowers, where we had used the artistically painted pots. Then the other part of the garden, we had the vegetable garden, and where they could go harvest them and replant. We left lots of seeds with them. So so some parts of the garden are just, I think pictures will help explain this better. So this is a before and after of the first facility, where we had previously had a laundry line. Now, this was the initial stage. I think right now it looks more, the pergola is fuller because the creeping plant has grown to shade the garden. And for the next, this is what we kind of came up with. So this was the garden where we had to excavate some of the bricks. And now we have the before and after. And these are some of the installations still going on in the first facility. So these were all painted by the seniors and caregivers and planted by them. And this is what the other looks like. So you can see the creeping plant is already creeping and forming a shade as when we took these pictures. So right now I'll talk about the impact and outcome of the project. As I mentioned earlier at the beginning, we measured some psychosocial indices and of course quality of life using the DEM-COL, and for the depression, we used the Cornell scale for depression and dementia. For agitation, the Cohen-Mansfield agitation inventory. Then I mentioned also that we used the MIDAS, which is a music assessment tool for assessing dementia, music in dementia assessment scale to measure visual arts-based intervention. So how the tool works is that it has a visual analog scale that has like 5 aspects. If I go over to the next slide, yeah, so this is what it looks like. So it has interest, response, initiation, involvement, and enjoyment. So the seniors were all rated before and after each of the art sessions. By proxy, of course, caregivers had to fill this on their behalf by observation. So so as you can see from here, there was an almost 40% increase in each of these analog scale. Then it moves from, the grand mean moves from 49 to 80, and that is very good for, of course, immediate impact. Then this is what we got for the quality of life, agitation, and depression. So for quality of life and agitation, there was significant positive change in quality of life and agitation. Quality of life increased by 7%, and agitation increased by 14%, rather reduced. Agitation reduced by 14%, but there was no significant change for the depression score. So the garden launch and care staff training. So what happened here was, it's very interesting because I love talking about it because this brought lots of joy and smiles on the faces of the seniors. So we wanted a situation where that will actually happen, where they will own it, where they would celebrate it, when they will feel like, oh, something is actually going on and there is a change in our home or there is a change in our facility. So we had like a really big party for them. So where we had music, we had dancing and all of that. And yeah, of course, the launching of the garden. So they named the garden. They got a name for their garden. I think one of them is named Trinity Garden. The other is Dorcas Eden Garden. And so yeah, they did all that by themselves. And during the launch, we had dancing competition for the care staff, and we also had like a fashion parade for the seniors. It was important that they did that because that was like a highlight after so much hard work for them, from painting to planting to, fumigating their home, and it all came together. So it was really, really important to them. And it was also a way to celebrate the seniors as well. I think there is a video of that, and I'd love to share that video with you. But before we do that, we'll just, yeah, these are some of the pictures from the event. They were all dressed up and, the garden was launched by them, named by them. And yeah, so I'll quickly stop sharing my screen and play a video from YouTube. Some highlights of the launch that we had.
The World Environment Day was celebrated recently, and here on the Art Express, the Bloom Social Therapeutic Horticulture Project for the elderly was celebrated to ensure ownership and optimal garden use. That the other people and their caregivers participated in a weekly planting and painting sessions where everyone planted and painted on several plant verses for a period of 2 months. Let's check this out.
My own art is mango. They put mango on my own plastic there. That is the art. It's just like them. It's art. You can talk about that as art. Normally, I so much enjoy this program because I'm from a village. I'm born in a village. All this type of things you are doing, we do it when I was young. I used to follow my father to the farm. All these things that say art or not, I am a farmer.
I'm Fumi Akindeje. I'm a public health researcher and also an ESG practitioner. For me, art is a way of life. It's actually living. It's like what you do every day. It's like breathing, basically. What we have here is the Bloom Social Therapeutic Horticulture Project, and it's a fusion of art and horticulture. So what we did with the elders is working with them not just to create a therapeutic garden in their home, but also to make them participate in the process so they can own it. So we're all about ownership. So for a social therapeutic project, you want to have a lot of conversations going on and, you know, interactions, discussions with the elders. And that was exactly what we did. We had volunteers, especially artists, come work with us. And in the process, they painted the pots. And so we asked them questions in a bid to create conversations, like happy moments. They laughed, they were able to discuss with us, like, oh, like, okay, where have you traveled to before now? We asked them questions like that. Say, apart from Nigeria, you know, they answered, or where would you have loved to go to? So say America, a lot of them said UK. So we had a lot of UK paintings there, right? So, and sometimes we ask them, oh, what's your favorite fruit? What's your favorite gift they have been gifted? You know, that kind of situation kind of brought a lot of conversation, old memories, and yeah, basically that was what we did. And also we had them plant in these pots, not just, you know, paint them. They also participated in the planting. So we got soil, everything. So we made them do it themselves. So it's also a form of like promoting their physical health so that they have a lot of mobility going around with their hands, you know. So yeah, basically that was what we did. It's the fusion of both to improve their brain health, physical health as well, and to reduce loneliness or, you know, boredom or what have you. Yeah. It's like a monument, right? So they have an opportunity to come here, look at their plants, look at what they painted, talk about it. So it kind of like, you know, trigger conversations over and over again. So we get them to maintain the garden. It's not really one-off because at the end of the day, they have to weed the garden, they have to water it, they harvest vegetables from it. So we not just do for aesthetics. We actually have vegetables because we had to do like a needs assessment, right? Because it's both evidence-based. So we did not just come to plant. We asked caregivers, what would you like to see in this garden, right? And also, so that was what we did. So in the process of time, they have to maintain the garden, such they are promoting their physical health and, yeah, general health, mental, physical as well. Okay, so basically nature in itself, there is the theory of the biophilia theory. It's where it talks about how people are normally attracted to nature and feel more refreshed, and they are able to diffuse, or what's the word? Purge out maybe stress. I think that's the word. Yeah, so that's what nature does to us, whether you're old or whether you're young. When you are in nature, it has a way of making you relax, making your what's it called? The neuron, the happy hormone, makes it, you know, come up and reduces if I'm not mistaken, oxytocin, the stress hormone go down, then it creates more happy hormones for you. Basically, I think in a layman's sense, that's the best way I can explain that. That's what nature does to us generally. You feel fulfilled when you see a plant grow. There is this fulfillment, there's this achievement you think you have done. You are happy when you see you planted something this little as a seed, and, you know, a few months time you see it blossom. You're really excited. That in itself, you know, improves one's mental health and brain health. We should all embrace nature and art. I think it's a perfect combination to improve one's mental health, especially when you live in this part of the world.
This project started in December 2022. So we, figured out the homes that we wanted to work with.
I want to welcome every one of us here to our humble abode we call Elderly Care Home. It's a residential assisted facility where we take care of elderly people. Officially opening our beautiful garden. Every one of our seniors have participated in creation of this beautiful garden.
Gardening, it's more like, it's a form of gardening where it was purposefully built or designed for the purpose of, interacting with all the living elements of nature, human interacting with nature. For example, you have sound, smell, what you see, what you hear. These things stimulate our physical bodies. There is the theory of the biophilia hypothesis that usually, suggests that humans are, they have the tendency to be drawn to that. Utilize this project to the maximum. It's for you, it's for your enjoyment, it's for your well-being, for your physical, so that you can move around, weed it, water it, plant in it, and do what you have to do. Nurture it because it's yours.
We're breathing oxygen from what this plant brings out and taking back our CO2. Imagine everything is just connected. Let's not put our heads together for this project. It's such a beautiful, fantastic project.
So the reason why gardening is very, very, very important. Some of our mommies and daddy, you can come around, maybe put your chair on the grass there, sit. At the same time, I'm happy that I'm seeing vegetables. That is, the gardening is not just a synthetic one, or maybe just for ornaments like flowers, but you still have food. You can go there, cultivate it if you say you want a 4-year-old. It's available close to you here.
The garden is going to be named Trinity Garden.
Wow!
The benefits of the gardening to the elderly in the home is that it sort of gives a structure to their life. Instead of sitting all day without doing anything, they know that they have something to do when they step outside.
Gardening is actually a blessing to us. It has been able to create an avenue for us to have more activities for the seniors. They get to participate in planting, in tilling, in weeding.
And I can see this garden as a cozy place for the elderlies, for the seniors. And it's going to make them active and it's going to make them cool, especially when the weather is sunny. So it's going to be a relaxing point for the seniors.
For senior citizens, where they can find solace and comfort, something they're going to be in charge of, something they're going to be doing themselves. So where they can sit down, and caregivers as well can sit down in the garden and distress.
I mentioned that this project is being supported by the Alzheimer's Association and also Alzheimer's Society UK and the Global Brain Health Institute. And I'd like to feel, as you rightly mentioned, the Global Brain Health Institute. So what we do at the Global Brain Health Institute is improve brain health globally and also reduce the prevalence of dementia and Alzheimer's disease.
So a garden provides a place for familiar activities such as digging or cutting grass or hanging out or washing, and a place for exercise. You've been planting, you're so happy coming out to see, oh, that's my plant, it has grown, there is flowers budded today. Yeah. 2 days after, you come again, you see weed, you remove the weed. I'm sure you are even conversing with your plant, you are conversing with the things that you have planted.
We're going to do our fashion parade.
We're young, and we go to the garden, then we are weeding, we are pruning, or we are transplanting. We didn't know we're doing a great exercise to our body. It is now in our old age when they tell us to go for exercise that we know that, oh, we had a cheap to do that, we didn't know the value.
Oh, when we were thinking of the name for the garden, Dorcas just came out straight.
All the Son and God the Holy Spirit.
spoke about the garden launch and showed you those videos. We had a training for caregivers as well. We did that with a physiotherapist who talked about the benefits of having the garden in their space, as well as some guidelines in its application to maximizing its benefit for seniors as well as for caregivers. And also, I think we've gone through this already. Yeah, it was in the news as well. So yeah, recommendations. So basically, I think it's all about co-creation. It's all about collaboration. It's all about ownership. So something that should I call it a principle of in public health or in engaging in community engagement, going from bottom to the top. So where you have to deal with the cell of a system, so units of a system. So it's not just dealing with from the top, maybe from a leader. We would have just gone and say, okay, management, we want to do this, and we do, but no, we decided to do it with everyone being involved. So co-creation has, of course, it's very, very, very important in creating ownership. I think they tend to own it and use it because it was created by them. So yeah, co-creation is very important. Then one thing we also learned is about naming the garden. There is something about a name. It creates this personal connection to a thing. It's like naming a dog. It's like naming your house. So it gives it this further connection to it. So also, I spoke about the use of local fabricators. That also is very important. It's cost effective, and of course makes the work really fit in like perfectly. Then we talked about garden visibility and accessibility, because if it's not visible, people might not even know that anything of that sort exists. And of course, utilization will be poor. And of course, the aim will be defeated. Then we said grow culturally familiar and edible vegetables. This was important because we wouldn't grow plants that are not familiar to them. So we grew like really local plants that were familiar to them, that they could use to prepare local dishes that were very indigenous to the Nigerian environment. And of course, I think this applies to, of course, not using of the non-use of or planting of toxic plants, because some of the elderly, we realize that during the process they can pick off stuff and try to taste it or put in their mouth, and you don't want that happening, and people getting poisoned. Also, utilizing vertical gardening, it's very effective for utilization of or maximization of space, especially when you have limited space. Then also provision of shade is very important, and rodents and pest control is critical as well. I'll just briefly touch on the arts planting session. One thing that was very important is the use of arts appropriate materials, in as much as they are seniors and elderly, you necessarily don't want to use materials that make them feel like babies. So we had used like acrylic and really nice materials for them to work with, and of course use water soluble materials, and also provide water for them to drink, because some of them want, if you don't watch them properly, they were at the point of drinking the water you want to use for the art process. So always keep an eye on them, use the right PPEs, provide drinking water, let it be visible in front of them, and reduce the session. It shouldn't be longer than 1 hour at the max. Yes, and for the sake of time, I want to say my thank you to Trellis team and organization for the opportunity to make this presentation today. and also to the Alzheimer's Association, Alzheimer's Society, and the Global Brain Health Institute, which funding came from for this project. Yes, thank you very much. And this is my email. Feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Funmi. That was fantastically detailed and so very, very interesting. And I believe there are quite a few questions there. So I'll pass over to Jo to voice them.
Thank you. Yeah, first few, I don't know if anyone wants to put their hand up to ask a question and they can just voice it, then do that. But anyway, for now, I will work through the ones that we've got. So Fiona asked a couple of questions. It's really inspiring to see what you and your colleagues have achieved. You packed so much design into a tricky space. And the question was, what else can be done to share this information to inspire others to create their own gardens in that kind of setting or any other setting, really?
I didn't get the last part of what you said.
What more can, or what else can you do, we do to share this work so that others can learn from it?
Okay, I think that's exactly what we're doing now through Trellis, and I have a paper, a publication coming up, basically a combination of the impact of the project. So yeah, so hopefully the journal will be published, and I'll share and let everyone know. Yeah, I think that's it. But if you have any other suggestions, why not?
Great. Well, I'm sure we'll happily share it widely once it's there as well. And obviously, this presentation is recorded, so it will be available as well for lots of people to view. Other questions we had, Fiona again asked about training for the care staff. You mentioned that briefly. Is that something that was documented and that can be shared as well? Just again, so others can just have an idea of what to do when you train the staff?
Yes, it was documented. It was documented, yes, and we are currently working on drawing up a curriculum to see how we could further train care staff, not just in care homes that we have interventions in, but around Nigeria, because I feel like we have so many trainings already on horticulture, healing gardening, and use of horticulture for caring for seniors, but something that is really tailored to the African environment or Nigerian environment, it's really not available. So that's one. And of course, it's something that anybody can learn from, basically. So yes, there were recordings of the session, but not really fine-tuned yet. But yeah, that's a possibility to share that.
Great, thank you. Sally asked, will this model be rolled out or repeated at other care homes? And someone else also asked the question, Joan asked, how you selected the 2 care homes.
Okay, so right now we have this running in 3 care homes in Lagos, Nigeria. So we had implemented one earlier in just after the pandemic. It actually started as a call to lessen or soften the effects of the pandemic on seniors, because they faced a lot of seclusion. Yeah, so we did that, and this was a follow-up. So we have 3 ongoing right now, and the model, anyone could feel free to copy it, really, because it's, as long as it helps life, as long as it's impactful to the caregivers and to seniors, yeah. And I'm available to collaborate or provide some sort of guidance if that's anything that the person might find useful.
Okay, thank you. Lucy, you've got your hand up. Do you want to unmute and ask a question?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm late because I thought it's 6:30. But anyway, I hear what you really explained, but obviously this is a research from my reading. It's about the outcome is proof for the life quality and help the people agitation as well, but not depression. And so I say that there's a improvement, there's a limitation. But my question is, the under the slides you mentioned about the people with Alzheimer, like society people. Is that the people you choose this group? They all have kinds of like dementias or Alzheimer disease, and you stay as a researcher, like a participant. Is that what you select the data from? Does that make sense?
So what? Yeah, I think I understand you. So two things. It was an intervention project. So we carried out an intervention, but we measured the impact of the intervention. So we evaluated the impact of the intervention, right? And so we worked with persons with and without dementia. So we had 33 participants, 33 seniors, but 20 of them had some sort of dementia diagnosis. I don't know if I answered your question correctly.
I ask, is everybody participate this research being diagnosed certain kinds of the brain, like dementia or Alzheimer's disease, or only for elder people? Because when you make slides, you talk about elderly people with some intervention, but at the end you talk about dimensions. Is that dementia
Yes.
and Alzheimer's society? So what's this relationship when you do this intervention for the data? You make mostly for elderly people, or for most people being diagnosed with dementia? Is that right? Dementia or Alzheimer disease?
Okay, two things. We had 33 seniors. 20 of them had some sort of dementia. When we did the proposal for the project, we're looking at persons with dementia. But you can't go to a care home and select those with dementia to be involved in your project and leave the others. So everybody was included in the project. Those seniors with or without dementia. So we had 33 of them, 20 had dementia, and that will make it 13 where like had other other conditions, but not dementia. And I think I remember someone asked a question about how I chose I think I missed that, how the facilities were chosen. It was based on convenient sampling. So we approached the home, and of course they were willing to work with us. That's the first step. And also they didn't have a garden. That was also one of the inclusion criteria, and they were willing to work with us. So those were the two things that we worked with. And fortunately, we found just privately run facilities to do that, because the government run there were a lot of bureaucracies, so we couldn't scale through with that. Yeah.
Thanks, Finmay. I've got one last question maybe here. Maybe there's always a few sneak in at the end, so let me try and get through them. Karen asks, how was the process of using the questionnaires with the elderly people that were involved? Was that straightforward, or did you have to adapt them or gather the information in different ways?
So before we went out, of course, we needed ethical approval. We gained ethical approval, but the ethical approval does not include collecting data from the seniors. So I mentioned earlier that we have all the documentation or evaluation that we did was done by proxy. So we used, because the caregivers were familiar with them, so we used their own, so they filled the forms. I think I failed to mention that we had assessments 3 months we had before and after. So before we started the project and 3 months after the intervention, they had filled both forms. So that's where the comparison came from. But everything was on proxy using care staff to answer those questions. None of them came directly from, they were not direct voices of the seniors, because ethically we're not allowed to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that hopefully that answers that one for you, Karen. A couple of other questions. Have we got time, Jenny, to squeeze them in?
Yes.
Yep, yes. Great. Question around how have you had contact with the two care homes that you mentioned there in the study, and how are they getting on since your intervention? How are they finding the maintenance and just the day-to-day now the garden's there?
Yeah, so usually, so because both management, the people managing the homes really became like really close friends to me, like big sisters. So they send me pictures all the time, like, oh, this was happening based on observation. Oh, they're using the garden, they're doing, you know, they always come out here to sit, to have discussions in the evening. They spend more time in the garden than watching TV now. Yeah, I get such feedbacks, and recently actually not recently, as a follow-up to the project, we're actually thinking of doing having secondary school students come in maybe once in a month to have like sessions with them, maybe just sit around them, help them with the garden, or but we're trying to build a program around that basically. Then also during the launch of the garden, we sold, or should I use the word auctioned? We auctioned some artistically painted plant nurseries, which some of the attendants of the community around the home bought, and that fund was actually given to the home to probably use to get pay the gardener at first, but they don't intend to sustain that. The project is meant to, the garden is meant to be catered for, maintained by caregivers and the seniors. So they would do that. And during the training, we had them arrange a timetable where they would come out to do that. Those were some of the resolutions that we had during the training. So they had like a timetable. They shouldn't do this in the evening. They should do it in the morning, after breakfast. They shouldn't do it when it's sunny. So we had that timetable with them, with the seniors as well in the timetable. So those are the kind of things we did and are still bringing in to sustain the garden.
Brilliant, thank you. I've got one other written question, and then hopefully if we've got time, Lucy, I'll come to you next. The question was, how long did it take from that initial design phase that we saw and the kind of assessment to that first art planting session? Because it seemed, obviously we're just seeing a before and after, but how long, what was the time period of that?
I think that was in I think that was January 2020. No, that was December in 2022. And before we started planting was in, I think April or May, if I'm not mistaken. Between April and May, we started planting. So that should be like 5 months, 6 months, 5 months, thereabout.
And then the sessions, the actual art sessions and planting sessions that you did with the residents.
Yeah, we started having the sessions in May. So we had 6 sessions. Okay. We had 6 sessions, 3 for each home to make those paintings, and we had 2 sessions of planting afterwards.
Okay, that's quick. So a 5-month period, almost 5 or 6 months, just from nothing to that. Really?
Yeah.
Lucy, do you want to try? Get another question?
The another question is about the collaboration, and you today present this result. My question is, because when I got this one is IHS on the project, so who is behind this one? Is there somebody support you, or you are psychology background, or you are horticulture background? How you this team work?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so my background is in public health, environmental health. And I'm a global, I'm an Atlantic Fellow for Equity in Brain Health. And over the course of time, I've had series of training when it comes to the carrying out interventions, brain health interventions. And I'm a self-taught artist. So I think that's where the art part kind of comes in. And I did some trainings on horticultural therapy. Yeah, just basic training. I wouldn't call myself a therapist, but just basic training on social horticultural therapy. Yeah, that's as far as I know.
Is that only your one person to help this whole project to research? Nobody really like if I do a project, I will find somebody and behind my back. And is that really, this is all that you done is your one person? There's no like behind your team is IHS or is
I have a collaborator.
Who is your collaborator?
I have a collaborator, but so I work with the Global Brain Health Institute, and yeah, I have so because the project is like how do I explain this? I have a supervisor or a mentor. It's a mentor, not a supervisor. So I have a mentor and I have a regional mentor. So my mentor is, so I always give feedback and reports. Then we kind of like, you know, maybe like do some reevaluation of what step to take, what was next. So I have, my mentor is in the Trinity College Dublin, and I have a regional mentor in Nigeria, in the University of Ibadan. Then also I have a collaborator, a fellow collaborate with me on the project. And I worked with volunteer artists as well, like several other artists. I worked with a landscaper, a professional landscaper. I worked with a physiotherapist. So it was actually like a multidisciplinary team coming together to do all this. I'm just giving the presentation, really.
The last point I want to quickly ask you, is that really you talk about, because this is we through the RHS and got this therapeutic approach, but actually this project, you choose the people who live in Nigeria, it's not in London. My mind thinking these people who live in London, it isn't. Am I right?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
So is that the people you research, they all live in Nigeria, it's not living in London. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes, you're right.
Okay. That's what I wanted. Thank you.
Thank you.